What's going on, guys? Welcome back to The Wave. Today we're going to be covering the conference finals games 1. And the first conference finals game 1 was the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Oklahoma City Thunder. And this game was honestly, I know it's a cliche, but this game was honestly a tale of two halves. The Warriors came out, pardon me, Timberwolves came out with so much head of steam in the first half, especially led by Julius Randle. I think he had at least 4 or 5 threes in the first half. I think it was 4, and then he had 1 3 in the second half. And Anthony Edwards was doing their thing. They were the two leading scorers for the team, but not really much production from anybody else on the team, if we're being honest. Nobody else scored double digits except for DiVincenzo with a close 9, but again, only 2 players in double digits. Not really much scoring from Alexander Walker, who's cousins to Shai Gilgeous. Mike Conley with 7, inefficient 7. Rudy Gobert, he only took 3 shots, and he was pretty kept in check. But Julius Randle's 28 was just like not enough. And the key, really, we're gonna get to it, but the Timberwolves took 51 threes. In the second half, they went ice cold, and they were nowhere to be found. Like, they took 51 shot threes, 81 field goals, and out of those 83 field goals, 51 of them were threes. Too much 3-point settling out there. They were going to the free throw line a handful, about 21, and the fouls were pretty much the same on both sides. Turnovers, they lost a turnover battle to the Thunder, and it was just in the second half, once the Thunder started getting going, and we're going to take a look at some of the key plays that I thought shaped this game. But once that game was once that half was over, it was all Thunder, and you could even see that the Timberwolves only scored, if I'm not wrong, they only scored 40 points in the second half, while the Timberwolves, they scored 40, while the Thunder scored, what's that, 70. So 40, they outscored them by 30 alone in that half. And that was enough to beat them by 26. So yeah, their second half really outshone, their first half performance. And they were keeping up with them. They were only down by 4, so it kind of makes sense. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Thunder real quick. 4 of their 5 starters with double digits. Holmgren, that was my X factor. He had 15 on 6 of 9, 67% shooting. He was just filling out the stats: 3 assists, a steal, a block, only 1 turnover, no fouls. Played great basketball out there. Jalen Williams, he's the shooting guard that they kind of drafted and built. They liked what they saw out of him. He played great, 7 for 18. A little inefficient, but he was definitely doing his thing out there with 5 steals, 5 assists, causing havoc. So that 5 turnover difference that they did have, we can thank Jalen Williams for his defense there. Hartenstein as well, just doing what he's got to do, 6 for 8 with 5 rebounds. Rebounding wasn't really the biggest thing here, but the Thunder won that battle as well. And yeah, they were just generating more offense and better looks. Again, they shot 21 threes versus 51 versus the Timberwolves, and they took 1 less shot than they did. So again, they shot more efficient from the 3 at a smaller volume, but that volume was what really killed the Timberwolves in this game. My prediction still pretty much stays the same, though. I still think that Oklahoma City is going to win this in 5 or 6. Minnesota, again, their run is just a little unconvincing to me, and unless I see otherwise, I'm going to continue with my Oklahoma City Thunder take. All right, let's go ahead and just take a look at some key plays that I thought were, crucial at understanding how this game was looking for the Minnesota Timberwolves. If we go ahead and take a look, Minnesota started the game strong. Let's go ahead and see how they started the game. So we see a little pitch off to Randle, pick and roll action with him. He dishes it off to McDaniels, and they get into a little action where he could just walk it down. Free throw line, he's wide open. That's an easy shot for him to take. And that was how Minnesota was getting most of their shots, and they were open to the 3 ball. So Here we go again. We can see Anthony Edwards this time. He has Holmgren on him. Sort of a mismatch because he has a little bit of a speed advantage, but he's trying to fake him downhill, hit him with a step back, creates that separation. He's wide open, and of course they're happy with the shot, but Oklahoma City, they're not fazed by shots like this. It just is what it is. So look, we have Shea coming down the court. When he gets downhill, he initiates contact. That deceleration stops on 1 foot, dime, easy pass off to Hartenstein with the dunk. So it's pretty, the actions are there. We can see Minnesota again. Their pick and roll, their high pick and roll is what's really getting them into some of these actions. Mike Conley with the pitch off, illegal screen that they didn't call, but it is what it is. Edwards, he just walks into the spot. So you can see that they're just walking into some of their spots. Again, we have Edwards just backing down, not really paying attention, backing down into space, not really reading the floor too well. Steal causes a turnover, fast break, but Edwards is able to recover and block it. So the Timberwolves are kind of rolling in the first half. Honestly, everything is going in their favor, especially Julius Randle. He was feeling it from three. This was one of his 4 threes coming out of the half. So we can clearly see that Minnesota's they're on a roll, but there's just a key moment in the second half where I feel like the game completely flipped and Minnesota just ran out of gas. Things kind of started looking a little funny for Minnesota in the second half. I'd say after this wide open three, after they gave up this 3 to Wiggins, I believe, the game just kind of started looking a little different. Now look at their offense. Rejected screen by Conley. He dishes it to the corner. He attacks off the catch. Pull up. That's what we saw in the first half, right? Okay. Let's see if they can continue to get that. The spoiler alert, they don't. Now, Oklahoma City's up 3. All right, Shea, he has the ball. He's getting ready to make a move. He's reading. He's seeing what's happening. Nobody's really moving. There's open space in the middle. That's where he goes. Gets a little one bounce, steps back, creates space. That's his shot. That's his shot all day. Plus the foul. And then after that, they just started rolling. Let's take a look. Again, they have Hartenstein with the screen. He's rolling. Little dump off, floater game over the top. It's his. That's a textbook basketball play right there. And this is when Minnesota just started launching up threes. Let's go ahead and take a look. Anthony Edwards trying to break down, see what he can get. Hartenstein with the help, but he's a little too late. Edwards just rises up top of the key. He's gonna knock that down all day. But they were kind of really settling for this. Here we go again. Little step back there, creating separation. They're collapsing every time he touches the paint. Conley has to be ready to shoot. He gets it off, and but I don't see that sustaining. Especially with the way they're playing defense. Once they came out of this run or this timeout, things just look a lot different. Wiggins going downhill. He's just trying to break down, see what he can get from Randle. He takes the middle. He goes to the middle. But once you give an all-star, once you give a player the middle of the floor, they're going to look like an all-star. Again, you see Oklahoma City just running it down. Just getting to the middle of the floor. And DiVincenzo's there to help, but it's just not enough. Shea's on right now. OKC's on a run. Look at those fans; they're super excited. And again, they're just going to what works. This pick and roll with Shea and Randle is just seems to be super lethal. Like once he puts him in the action, it's very lethal again with the missile layup. But more hustle, more drive. That's where that rebound. They only had a 4+ advantage, but you see where one of them came through on the offensive side of the floor. Again, we have Naz Reid, who wasn't really too effective, and we see the Thunder are now on this 8-0 run. Let's see what they do. Of course, Naz Reid, gets the chair pulled on him, turnover. This is only going to keep fueling this run they have. Oklahoma City, they're ahead of the, they have numbers. They don't really capitalize on that, but they take advantage of the out of position. The team is fake the swing, attack the catch, probe, see what you can get. Again, that's how we started the run. Attack off the catch, 2 steps, finish strong. They're on a roll, and you can't stop them. Plus, you took a timeout, and they're at home. All right, another one. Look at those fans. They're excited. And it was just after that moment, it was just that's what we continued to see with Oklahoma City, just getting to what they want to do, and their lead ballooned to over 20, in the second half, which is key plays like that, just taking advantage of the fact that Minnesota's defense could just never get set, and they have a hard time once their defense collapses. Their lack of they got some guys on the wing, but some of those lineups they have. Once they collapse inside, it's hard for them to retreat back out and cover the perimeter. And we see that, it allows them, once you do that enough, you just disorient the defense and you're able to get what you want. And you can see it. It's all on film. So, But let's go ahead and jump into the next game. We're going to go and see how the Knicks do, and we're going to see some key plays from there. And for the final games of Game 1, we had the Indiana Pacers versus the New York Knicks. And that was an overtime thriller, and that game was going to go down as one of the most classic games I've watched. And it was definitely a heartbreak for New York fans, I can tell you that. Let's go ahead and get started. This game started off pretty intense, with teams trading buckets back and forth in the first half. Not a lot of defense being played, specifically in the first half. And it was really just a slugfest. I think, at the end of the first quarter, they scored 70 points combined. So, all right, we knew that this game was going to get high scoring and intense. And if we take a look, we can look at the Pacers. Pascal Siakam, he didn't play too bad. He went 7 for 16 from the field, 17 points. Not the most efficient night, but 5 rebounds and 6 assists, no turnovers, with 2 steals. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good lineup. The hero for the Indiana Pacers, while it was Halliburton with his 31. They don't go to overtime without Aaron Nesmith, man. And he went 8 for 9 from the 3-point line. He hit some big threes we're gonna look at in a sec, and it was just, he was the X factor, honestly. Now if we go ahead and look at Miles Turner, he had 14 with 11 with a 6 for 11. Not a bad game at all. Could have a little bit more, but he was playing good, especially in that first half. He started the game 3 for 3 with jump shots, so it was like, wow, he might have been on a roll, but they found their offense through someone else, and it was cool. And then we have Nembhard again as well, 15, and Halliburton with his 31, and one that game winner, or the shot to force the overtime was just like, man, it was funny because how Kevin Durant for the Brooklyn Nets, his inch caused them to lose. Well, this kind of played in New York's favor this time, and that 1 inch saved them and allowed them to even have an overtime. So it was insane. Let's take a look at what we saw from the Knicks real fast. Again, you have Jalen Brunson with 25 shots. He had 43. He was really he couldn't. He was bugging out there. Karl Anthony Towns with 35. He played pretty good. He didn't even play bad tonight. He had 35 and 12. He did take a boneheaded 3, where I feel like they should have maybe passed it once or twice, maybe just try to get something else. That kind of shot them in the foot at the end of the game, but overall, I thought the game played good. Anunoby was, he had some contributions. He had 16, and he was doing his thing. He almost fouled out the game. He was in some foul trouble. And yeah, it's not really much from all the other guys. Mikal Bridges, he had 16, 8 for 16, 50% shooting, not bad at all. I want to see a little bit, my X factor for the series, I want to see a little bit more from him. But 16 he was definitely doing what he needed to do out there. And Josh Hart with 8 and 13 rebounds, 7 assists. So he was creating some offense, but we would like to see him score the ball a little bit more, and not really too much from the bench. But Cam Payne and Deuce McBride, or Miles McBride, Deuce. there's some points there, but not really too much from the bench. We're gonna go ahead and take out some key plays that I thought was really that really shaped the series. But again, I still have the Knicks in 7. I think that this New York team. I keep telling people about this Pacers. Don't sleep on them. They're not bad, and they're pretty good. So yeah, I still have the Knicks in 7. Let's see how the Knicks readjust to dropping a game at home, and they have to pick this game up at the Garden, or they face they could face a hard time in this playoffs. So let's see how they respond on. I think that's Friday. Let's see how they get back, and it should be an interesting experience. But let's go ahead and take some footage that I thought was really interesting. All right, let's go ahead and take a look. I decided to show in the fourth quarter because it was like that's really where the meltdown for the Knicks kind of started to occur, and we can just take a look at some key executions that allowed them to even have an overtime when they should be walking away with a victory. If you can take a look and see, the Knicks are up 7 with a minute and 3 to go. You have Brunson with the ball. Top of the key, he's about to attack. It looks like the starters are on the floor. So let's go ahead and take a look. So we can see we have Brunson, he's in his attack, and he's going to go downhill. He crosses over, goes to his strong side, uses the rim to protect the ball, goes right, and then he gets a bucket. The Knicks are up by 9 with less than a minute to go. So how the hell can this have gone wrong? Let's take a look. Let's see what happened. So Indiana's coming down. Pascal Siakam. And again, I told you, Naismith went 8 for 9, and this was one of the biggest threes of the game. When I saw this 3 go in, I knew that there was trouble ahead because they just could not get a stop. And it was, okay, now we have Josh Hart passing it uphill. Karl Anthony Towns dribbling up. Mikal Bridges passes it back, little give and go action. Gets to the rim. Easy bucket. So the question is, how the hell did they lose this game? Let's keep watching. Indiana, they don't take any timeouts. They just say, yo, we're going to go. We have 1. We're going to try to get a basket. They're down by 8 with 37 seconds. Let's see. Again, he has just been walking into shots. Naismith, he was not missing. He literally hit back-to-back threes with less than. He did some Reggie Miller. I know it's cliche, but he did some Reggie Miller. He did that. Brunson gets the ball. We're trying to see what they do here. A little too much butter on the pass, and then this was a controversial call. They were trying to say that he got fouled, but they tried to say he blocked him, which was a tough call. It was tough. They reviewed it. I don't remember exactly how the review went, but that one was just insane. They're trying to say that because he blocked the ball and because the contact for the ball came first with incidental contact, no foul. This was a big call for the game. I don't like to leave the game up to fouls and stuff like that, but I'm going to be honest, no matter what contact happens after he touches that rock, once he touches the ball first, there's no foul. Like, the ball is technically loose. So Pascal Siakam, I think he's credited for a block there. No foul. And, yeah, it's just that was definitely a controversial call for the game. All right, now we're back. We see, they obviously got the challenge successful. They claim that he didn't foul him. Indiana's ball, which was crucial because that would have been free throws and the game would have been iced. So now they're on a 6-0 run in this little span we're watching. They hit 2 threes. They go back to their bread and butter. And he hits another one. He hit 9 points in that span that we're watching. And we saw they got a layup and they got technically a stop because there was no foul. So 9, and they've only scored 2 points. Now, this was nearly a turnover. Josh Hart was able to make it happen. All we needed, or we as in the Knicks, all the Knicks needed was to close the game out. They get to the lane. They dish it out to Cat. They don't even need to shoot. Like, just dribble out the clock. And I think Brunson, I kind of blame Brunson a little bit because, I get that he was being trapped, but you're winning. They need the ball from you. Like, I think Jalen Brunson should have been at the free throw line here. And as you can see, Cat, he splits one. And as we go for the second one, they don't usually show highlights in free throws unless it's crucial and he misses. And I can tell you for sure, he missed that. So now rebound, Thomas Bryant. Let's go timeout. So now Indiana, they didn't waste that timeout when they thought things were getting bleak. They actually used their timeout on the challenge and kept it. So now we got Naismith just going to the free throw line. Like he's literally the engine that's keeping this run alive. And he knocks it down. And then we kind of go through a free throw contest. We do a little free throw contest. And then we get to where I think it really matters. So we come down here. We're talking about the foot on the line shot. And this is crazy because Tyrese Halliburton, he was just, doing his thing. He gets it knocked out from Bridges as he reaches around, steps his foot on the line. And this could have been the game right here. Bounce off the back rim and fall through the net. I'm telling you, that could have been the game right there for the Knicks. They could have lost right there. And he's the iconic Reggie Miller. They choked, and they definitely did choke in the fourth quarter. We saw it happen. And then as they get into overtime, they just don't execute. We're not going to go into the overtime games and stuff like. We're not going to go into the overtime portion of it. I just wanted to go over what sparked Indiana's comeback, and it was definitely Naismith. He scored like double digits in less than 30 seconds of game time, and it was just insane. Again, with them winning the game like this, I think the Knicks need to come out with a little bit more heat, less trying to score and more trying to get Brunson with 40 and stop. And they need to limit these guys to under 100 points, like they were doing with all these other teams. Which this game was kind of out of character for for New York, because if you looked at their playoff run so far, they've been winning games. They'll score 100, but they're not scoring 130. They'll score maybe like 100 flat, maybe a $110 at max. They're usually around that 80, 90 range on the normal nights. And when I saw that they scored 70 in one quarter. Like, that's just kind of out of New York's playing style, and that's how defense really matters. But it's an interesting game one. It left a lot for us to see. And yeah, we're gonna be covering this, and we'll see like who is the X factors, who's not. Who's coming to play and who's not. But I want to thank you guys so much for joining me on this episode of The Wave. I've been your host, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Ciao. I'll see you later.